If you woke up this morning with a heaviness you couldn't explain, if your body felt anchored to the bed as if held by an invisible gravity, if rising felt impossible not because you're tired, but because something deeper refuses to move, Jung would tell you this: you are not breaking down. You are being summoned inward. For most of your life, you've been taught to blame yourself for these moments. You call it laziness. You call it lack of willpower. People around you urge discipline, toughness, productivity, as if you can simply command your spirit to obey. But what if the truth is holier than that? Jung believed that what we label as inertia is often the soul's first language, a language older than thought, older than culture, older than anything you've ever been taught to value. He said that stillness is not failure. It is a rebellion of the deep self, a quiet uprising against a life that no longer matches your inner truth. You feel this heaviness not because you are weak, but because something inside you is speaking. In the silence beneath the surface, your psyche begins its subtle revolt. It withdraws energy from the false. It refuses to support what no longer aligns. It stops powering an identity you've outgrown. And so you lie there, motionless, not collapsing, but incubating. This script is not about diagnosing your fatigue. It is about decoding it. In the next moments, you will walk into the hidden temple of your stillness. You will learn why your soul sometimes demands that you stop, what message it's trying to deliver, and why this laziness may be the chrysalis before transformation, because what you call unproductivity may actually be psychic truth rising through the cracks. If you've ever carried guilt for not wanting to move, for not feeling motivated, for being unable to perform the life others expect of you, prepare for a shift in perspective so profound it may change the way you interpret every moment of stillness from now on. Jung said that the modern world worships movement and fears the quiet. We're taught that resting is wasteful, thinking is passive, stopping is dangerous. But he discovered something radical. Sometimes the soul must fall silent so that it can reorganize itself. And when that happens, the mind feels stuck, the body feels heavy, but the inner self awakens. This is where your transformation begins. There comes a moment when the body slows before the mind understands why. A quiet heaviness spreads through you, as if some invisible hand presses gently on your chest and whispers, "Not yet, don't move." Jung believed this sensation is not the enemy of progress, but the beginning of truth. What we call laziness is often the psyche withdrawing its energy from everything that no longer aligns with who we are becoming. You may notice it first as a dullness towards the life you've built. The routines that once felt purposeful now feel empty. The conversations that once lit you up now leave you restless. It's not that you have failed. It's that your soul refuses to keep powering a life that does not reflect your inner world anymore. The energy that once sustained the old path is being quietly reclaimed. And beneath that reclamation lives a deeper shadow. Grief you never fully allowed yourself to feel. We carry so many silent funerals, versions of ourselves that died, relationships that ended, identities we outgrew without ceremony. The body remembers every loss the mind tried to outrun. That heaviness you feel is often the soul halting your momentum long enough to demand mourning. It insists that you pause so something inside you can finally be honored. Then there are the days when the world's noise has simply been too much. You absorb too many emotions, too many expectations, too many frantic signals from a culture addicted to stimulation. Jung saw the sensitive person as someone tuned into deeper frequencies, But that sensitivity requires cycles of recovery. Stillness becomes a form of purification, the soul rebalancing itself after carrying more than it was meant to. And sometimes the fatigue means something more mysterious. You are standing at the threshold of becoming. An old identity is dissolving, but the new one hasn't yet taken shape. Jung called this the liminal state, the sacred in-between where transformation happens in the dark. Like a cocoon, it is a place without movement but full of metamorphosis. Your body slows because your psyche is rearranging itself. When creativity is stifled, when the life you're living leaves no room for expression or imagination, the inner fire turns inward, not out of spite, but out of self-preservation. The soul refuses to burn for what is untrue. What feels like exhaustion is often the spirit demanding a life with meaning again. These forces blend together in that heavy stillness you feel. It is not decay, it is guidance, a message rising from the depths. Stop, listen. Something within you is trying to be reborn. When the body becomes heavy and the mind grows silent, it is easy to assume nothing is happening. You lie there, motionless, frustrated with yourself, wondering why your energy has vanished. But Jung insisted that these moments are not empty. They are full of activity that the conscious mind cannot yet perceive. He called it psychic incubation, a time when the unconscious reorganizes your inner world while you appear still on the surface. Imagine your psyche as a vast living forest. In winter, the trees stand motionless, stripped bare, seemingly lifeless. But underground, the roots expand, strengthen, prepare. Renewal begins long before the first leaf appears. In the same way, your soul does its deepest work in the dark, when your conscious self has surrendered its frantic attempts to stay productive. The modern world fears this. It worships charts, metrics, and efficiency. It wants visible progress, steps taken, tasks completed, goals met. Stillness looks like failure to a culture obsessed with constant motion. But the psyche is not a machine. It is an ecosystem, and ecosystems grow in cycles. There must be bloom, there must be decay, there must be renewal, and every renewal requires a moment of deep, necessary stillness. In those moments when you cannot move, something within you is refusing to keep living according to an outdated script. The unconscious begins rearranging the architecture of your inner life, shifting priorities, dissolving attachments, releasing old identities you no longer fit. What feels like stagnation is actually a quiet reconstruction, a breaking down of what no longer serves so something new can take shape. You may notice dreams returning with vivid intensity, images rising from nowhere, sudden memories resurfacing without explanation. These are the symbols through which the unconscious speaks. Jung said that when the conscious ego is weakened through rest, stillness, or emotional exhaustion, the deeper layers of the mind finally have room to reveal themselves. It is in these liminal states that you meet the self, beneath the self. The heaviness is not a barrier. It is an invitation to turn inward, to enter the cave where transformation begins. Myths across the world echo the same pattern. The hero must descend before they rise. They disappear into deserts, mountains, underworlds, not to escape the world, but to be remade by it. Your stillness is your descent. Your body is leading you into the dark chamber where the new version of you is being shaped. Do not fear this pause. Do not rush it. What is reorganizing inside you needs time, and your stillness is the doorway through which transformation enters. These forces blend together in that heavy stillness you feel. It is not decay. It is guidance, a message rising from the depths. Stop, listen. Something within you is trying to be reborn. When that heaviness settles into your bones, when your body insists on stillness, the conscious mind panics. It demands explanations, diagnoses, proof that something is wrong. But Jung taught that the psyche rarely speaks in straight lines or logic. It speaks in symbols, sensations, images, and subtle movements in the dark. And when you lie down in that unmoving quiet, you enter the only space where those messages can finally reach you. The unconscious does not shout. It whispers. That whisper may come as a pressure in the chest, a tightness in the throat, a sudden memory that surfaces with no context. It may appear in dreams, strange, vivid, haunting dreams that feel more real than your waking life. Jung believed that these are not random. They are the soul reaching upward, trying to reveal what the conscious mind is too busy, too anxious, or too distracted to hear. Stillness is the doorway through which these whispers travel. When you stop fighting the fatigue, when you let your body sink into the quiet, the unconscious begins to reveal its language. Not in sentences, but in feelings. Not in logic, but in images. You may sense that something in your life no longer fits. You may feel an unnamed longing for something you have not yet lived. You may feel sorrow for a version of yourself you abandoned, or a future you cannot yet articulate. This is why Jung encouraged what he called active imagination, a gentle inward turn, a willingness to sit with whatever rises without judging or suppressing it, not to analyze it, but to meet it. When you allow your inner world to speak freely, it begins stitching together meaning from fragments, a recurring symbol, a sudden flash of childhood, a strange warmth in the chest, a phrase you cannot ignore. These are not random. They are clues. The psyche is mapping itself, reorienting you toward truth. In this state, even the smallest sensations matters. You may feel your energy shift toward something unexpected. A new path, a new desire, a new version of yourself forming quietly in the dark. Jung believed that the soul reveals direction through intuition long before the conscious mind can understand it. That heaviness is often the beginning of alignment, not the end of motivation. Stillness is not empty. Stillness is instruction. Your soul is teaching you how to hear again. And now comes the part most people never understand. Sometimes the most powerful action you can take is to do nothing. Not as avoidance, not as apathy, but as a sacred rebellion against a world that demands you perform, even when your soul is breaking. When you rest consciously, when you honor the heaviness instead of resisting it, something miraculous happens. The psyche begins its alchemy. In ancient traditions, before any base metal could be transformed into gold, it had to sit in darkness, untouched, allowing the unseen processes to begin. Jung believed the soul follows the same law. Before you can rise, you must dissolve. This dissolution is not destruction. It is preparation. There is a moment in every inner journey when the old self softens, loosens, and finally lets go. You may feel disoriented. You may feel lost. You may feel like the world is moving without you. But beneath that discomfort, the unconscious is preparing a new alignment, a reorganization so deep that your future self will look back on this stillness as the turning point. And then, one day, without forcing anything, you will feel something shift. Your dreams become clearer, your thoughts feel lighter, your curiosity returns like a small flame. Energy rises not as pressure, but as invitation. Jung said, "This moment is the psyche's quiet announcement that incubation has ended. A new map has formed. A new inner architecture is complete. You begin to sense direction, not through thought, but through resonance. You feel drawn toward things that match your essence. You feel repelled by anything false. This is not motivation. It is rebirth. Modern society will never validate this process. It celebrates constant motion, endless optimization, the cult of productivity. But all great transformations, spiritual, artistic, psychological, were born in silence. Newton under the apple tree, Buddha beneath the Bodhi, Christ in the desert, Jung in his tower at Bollingen. Every one of them retreated before they returned, changed. So when the heaviness comes again, do not curse it, do not fear it, do not call it laziness. Thank it. Your desire to lie down is not the problem. It is the signal. It is your soul pulling you away from the life that no longer serves you, back toward the truth you've been taught to ignore. Rest. Listen, a new you is forming in the quiet. And when it is time to rise, you will not have to force a single step. Your next chapter will rise on its own, like dawn breaking through the forest of your becoming.